I'll figure that out.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the live show. Music's a little low this week, so not sure if this is going to hit YouTube, but welcome to Omnic Lab. This is episode 99. We got some cool stuff in the works for you for episode 100, but we are not coming up short this week. We're the traditional podcast where we're going to give you some strategies for Overwatch, and we're going to deliver. Gosh darn it, this week we're going to do some map mastery with my men, Andres Gomez, and we got returning guest RossianSpy, our Zenyatta expert. What's up, guys? How's it going?
What up?
What's up?
We're gonna jump right into it. We're gonna try to keep this show right at an hour for you, but we're gonna be diving deep into Horizon Lunar Colony, and hopefully you can get some to the moon strats for you guys this week. But we also want to cover a little bit about the Retribution event, and also some cool changes that were in the patch notes that we hadn't really dove headfirst into beyond just kind of like the hero things. And there's also some hidden bug fixes that we'd like to mention at the bottom of the show. But before we start, Andres, why don't you give people a little bit of the heads update here?
Sure thing. Starting out with their sponsor from the top score solutions, Ben, aka I Need Peeling, is offering free business consulting in the esports field. If you're an aspiring coach, starting a team, developing an app or service, trying to boost your subscriber base, or just want to work in esports in general, you can visit his website at topscoresolutions.com. You can also find him on Twitter at topscoresolutions or join his Discord server. Ben has a master's degree in sports management and business marketing experience. His services are totally free right now as the volume permits it, so get on it. He's a great guy. We've worked with him before in the past. He's super easy to reach, and he has a pretty big community of people.
Yep, still doing some coaching for my guys. Gotta get back on the ball this week because my in-laws were gone last week, and the reason for my absence, as Andres mentioned. So very thankful. Shout outs to Mel of Cavalry and Al Recap, and Icy Sorrow of the Enter the Iris podcast for filling in for me while I was gone.
They did a great
job.
Yeah, I like hanging
absolutely.
out with them. Also, make sure to check out Omnic Meta. Or Man Switch keeps cranking out some great articles over there, keeps you informed of everything that's going on, everything grabbed from actual data from the game. If you want to see how Mercy is declining a little bit, how she is maybe not declining a little bit, I don't know. She keeps going up and down, but he'll keep you updated of everything that's going on over there.
Absolutely. Let's get into talking a little bit about RossianSpy real quick. Just kind of give us a quick recap of who you are, what you play, kind of your pedigree in the scene, and why you think that Horizon is a good idea to talk about.
Well, I am the Zen master that is known for talking in his mellow voice, as they say, an ASMR voice, or I'll say, "Hello, everyone. How are we all doing today?" And discording this target and having all these silly names for him. But I've been playing and kind of been GM most of the time, playing and trying to compete, trying to push myself to that 500 as a Zen kind of only for a while. And now I'm kind of trying to like give up on that notion more and just focus more on try to be a little bit more flex support, just because sometimes people know who I am and they just will focus me no matter what. Especially in the new dive meta with Zen, it's tough. But the reason why I like Horizon, well, at least want to discuss it, is just my favorite one was already been discussed, Junkertown. So I was like, all right, well, I kind of been doing a little bit more different stuff in Horizon, and a lot of people don't like it. So at least gotta trying to find some positivity in it, you know.
I agree. So there's a lot of people that don't like Horizon Lunar Colony, but I always think that when people don't like something is because they don't understand it yet, and it makes it frustrating for them. But maybe we can help a little bit with that to make it a little bit less frustrating and a little bit easier to play on Horizon. Also, if you guys have never checked out Roshan play, you should definitely check out one of his streams. He is really fun to watch. He definitely does the Zen voice. And it's so funny sometimes watching some of your teammates being like, "Oh man, I've played with you before. You're the Zen guy. You're the Zen guy."
Yeah. I get that all the time.
The best is I think it was this might have been like 3-4 weeks ago, Roshan. I tuned into your stream when you're like at odd hours in the morning, and
Hmm.
you're like, I can't remember what it was. You said like so and so is no longer with us, and like just two of the guys in your team literally just like busted a gut. They're like, oh my gosh, don't say that. You're gonna make me play like crap.
Yeah,
Just laughing super hard.
yeah. Most of the people find it funny, but sometimes people get annoyed and they have to meet me with it. But it's
Yeah, it
you get some
happens.
haters. Yeah, you get some haters.
Everyone gets those.
Yeah.
Hate is gonna hate. Hate is gonna
Alright.
hate.
So
Well, let's get back over to our sponsors real quick to let you guys know how you can support us. Andres and I are trying to get to BlizzCon. We actually booked our rooms last week, and we're really excited about that. But we're still waiting on the May dates when they are going to open up the floodgates, and your spamming of the refresh F5 keys can commence for a couple seconds and trying to get in to the queue for buying some BlizzCon, sweet BlizzCon tickets. Hopefully, good luck to all of you out there. I know we will be spamming the F5 with you, and we'll try to get in. But those people so far who are helping us out at the highest level on our Patreon account at patreon.com/OmnicLab are Ben K, Britmus, Krista Playa, Golden Soldier A, Great Root Bear, Jan Jinkle, Jeff B, Jeremy Banks, Lysum, Never Clutch, who is always clutch, as Andres has now coined,
He's
Not
super clutch.
Meta, Ray, Roger B, Ricky Tiki Shazir, Scantily Clad, the sketchiest of names, and Top Score Solutions with Tragic Zach. Thank you guys so much for your support. Having a lot of these names week in and week out kind of feels a little monotonous for some of our listeners, but let me tell you, these guys have been around for a long time, most of them, and some of the new faces are very excited to be supporting us, and we're really, really pumped to have you guys a part of the team. There are limited slots. We're only taking 25 sponsors at this level before we have to kind of reconnect and figure out how we want to start relabeling sponsorships. So get them in while they're hot. And otherwise, you can support us at any level. And we're still thankful for those of you that are supporting us at $1 and $5 levels. Any of those levels are great. Go check out the perks on the website. I really, really appreciate that. If you guys missed the show or you want to catch the live stream, we've been uploading these to YouTube. If you missed the live stream or you're listening in audio only, you can go check that out. And in correlation with that, we are Twitch affiliates, so you can support us that way too. But let's get back into it as we have no new patrons of note. Roshan, Andres, let's get into Horizon. Let's talk some peanut butter. Let's talk some Winston, and let's talk how to Discord people off them points.
let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Ironically, Winston is really good in Horizon Lunar Colony. It's almost like they designed that map for him. But no, let's talk about it. Let's talk about assault maps in general before we get into the nitty-gritty of the map. I think that assault maps have this weird connotation in Overwatch. Some people like him. A lot of people are like, I hate assault maps. Don't bring it up to me. They're the most bullshit thing in the world. I personally enjoy assault maps. They require you to have a very solid strategy and a clean execution, especially on the attacker side. When you're in that last point, you can't be dilly-dallying in there, deciding not to go in at the same time. You gotta do it at once with your team, get it done, and make him not stall at all. I particularly like this function of the map. What about you guys? Do you guys enjoy assault maps? What's the deal here?
I don't mind them. It just depends. Sometimes there's certain assault maps that could get a little crazy. That you just know it's going to be insane stall at the end or something like that. But overall, I find them pretty good. It's usually not the maps. It's usually the teammates or something like that I'll be more mad about or something like that.
Yeah.
CP lol.
I definitely
Spamming
agree.
them, all chat.
Exactly.
I will say that in general, I found that 2CP maps were probably the hardest is in terms of understanding when you're performing well for maybe lower tier players or friends of mine that were new to the game. And also, I think when I go back to my brain when I first started playing Overwatch, as somebody who didn't play a whole lot of TF2, but played a lot of like more traditional shooters like, I guess you could say COD and like Halo and stuff. the more objective based things, this was really hard to attune with because you'll stall for like 1 to 3 minutes or so, and that's actually a fairly good stall depending on certain factors and whatnot. You're ticking down the clock, and then they just wipe you out, right? And then they cap the point, and then you go to point 2 and you hold for a really long time, and then they come in and sweep you and they wipe you out, and you got like a minute left in the clock. It feels really bad as I think when you're kind of newer to this environment and you're trying to like figure out how you're gonna win this game. Because a lot of times people will just do what they call the cheese strats, where they like set up a double barrier, double builder comp with like Bastion, Torb, and Orisa, Rhine, and they get cheesed out at the like lower ranks because they're just not figuring out how to do that. And even in my rank, in plat and gold, people still can't figure out how to do it sometimes. So I know that I'm kind of belaboring the point, and we want to get into this strategy more, but I wanted to encourage those of you who are like feeling like this is really difficult to evaluate. Is just try to breathe and keep maintaining your eyes to keep fluctuating back from the game to the clock and see how much time you're banking. Because you can have a really tilting fight that you just got completely washed out, and you look at the clock and you're like, wow, this is overtime. We've been holding them for a while. Or when you're doing pushes, you can just say, look, let's just push in a couple times, 2 or 3 times, because they've got way less time than we got because we held them. And then while you're pushing in, you just bank more ult charge, and then you just burn 3 ults and cap the point. So you can kind of get a little bit more efficient that way. And I think that's going to be a running theme when RossianSpy talks a little bit more with Andres here as we're moving forward in general strats, because the issues aren't capping the point per se. The issues are capping the easy to cap one of the 2 points, which is traditionally A, faster, and then capping B as soon as you can. And doing that in a speed format is kind of like how you end up winning the game, and because you get more opportunities to do it faster than your opponent, and you get more time in the time bank.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say one thing about assault maps compared to other maps. They do require the most team coordination sometimes. I think that with the other maps, you can sometimes get away with a little more individual play, especially on Control, for example, where the fight is a little more chaotic. It's kind of going on everywhere. It's a tug of war more than anything else. But on assault maps, you have a very defined and static point that is not going anywhere. It's a square in the map that is there, and both teams always know that that's going to be the objective. It's not unlike Payload, which moves a little bit, so you have slightly more of a dynamic fight throughout that point. On Assault, it's very static, so it gives defense a very specific point of this is what you have to hold, and this is it. So it makes the attacker have to be very clean and very decisive. It can also be a disadvantage for defense, but that only happens as you move up in gameplay. I think that on assault maps, you see this very particular pattern where on the lower ranks, it's very hard on the attacker side. But as you improve and improve and improve and get into the higher tiers, it gets easier and easier on the attacker side. And if you go into Overwatch League, for example, at the top tier of play, you actually see teams going back and forth rounds and rounds in these maps with the attackers constantly winning both points on both sides. So it's not even a landslide, but both teams just constantly
lots of
winning.
6-5 games.
Exactly. And at that point, it becomes a battle of wearing down the clock rather than can I even capture the point. And this is because at that level of play on assault maps, your teams are so coordinated that if they do win the team fight on the attacker side, they generally win the point at that point. But when you're playing in the ladder with a bunch of individual people, sometimes at the lower ranks where they're not as coordinated to start with, having this one organized team fight that can end it right there is a lot harder to achieve.
Roshan, you have any other comments on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the hate comes from as well that the fact that the game can go on for a really long time. Because I mean, I think I've played Little Sky, and I think it was like 12-14 or something like like something
that
ridiculous.
has happened.
Like over 10 digits, and then the game is like 45 minutes long, and then it ends in a draw, and you're just like, oh,
right,
nothing happened, right? So that's a big thing about TCP. I'd say most people don't like, and I don't know if they can really adjust that.
Yeah, I think that's part of their rule set, but I definitely do agree with you. assault maps can sometimes be the longest maps in the entire game of Overwatch, and that can sometimes be an issue. Even at the top tier of play, the assault maps sometimes will drag certain matches to over 2 hours, and it's like, oh man, whew,
Yeah,
this is.
Koth used to be that way until they cut it down to 3, best of 3 instead of best
Mhm.
of 5, because Koth maps felt
Yeah.
like an eternity. But at least they would always have a distinguished winner. That was the big difference between people hating Koth versus hating 2CP. And now people are like, whatever. At least 2CP maps are, or sorry, at least the Koth maps are over. So
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe we'll see something getting adjusted to them in the future. For now, this is what we have to work with. But let's
sure.
get into actual Horizon Lunar Colony now that we kind of have laid a general layout for Assault. Let's go into point A, the start of the map. Point A is a very interesting layout. There's not a lot of maps like this. It has a very big sight line that overlooks both from the attackers to the defense side. It encapsulates the defense in this very tight room that has vision to the entire place. And then you have both high ground on both left and right side, which makes it very, very unique in the sense that you can run a lot of compositions in this first initial map, both on attack and defense. I think it's very versatile the way you can go. You can go full dive with tanks that can get up in the rafters very easily. You can also use shield heroes to approach from the bottom left or go up the stairs on the right. I think that there's a lot of things that you can do hero-wise in this particular point of the map. I'm going to pass it to you, Russian. What do you think of this first point?
Well, I think it's probably one of the most too many, there's so many areas that they can come from, just looking at how big and vast it is. It's definitely one of the most biggest and unique ones, and I think it's one of the hardest to defend. The first points, it's rarely that this team wins on that side. But there's so much elevation stuff that the hero choices are super vast. You can do whatever you want almost in here. Although the death ball comp was popular for a while, but I think it's gonna probably die down since all the changes.
And I think
now
that
that Reaper is kind of a mess.
the thing about this map is that because it's, like you said, so many different places that you can go at, a lot of things can work. You can work a death ball with 3 tanks, for example. We've seen that happen. You can work a death ball with a Doomfist and a Sombra. I've seen that happen before, just because you can dive from so many places that the Sombra can hack you at any point. The Doomfist can fall from you from pretty much anywhere. You can play a Widowmaker in this map as well. You have such huge sight lines that you can actually stay really far back, as I'm sure you can attest as a Zenyatta player, and just shoot at the point of at the defender's point from very safe distance. And this is the thing, and I think the reason why you say the first point is very hard to defend is because it basically puts the defending team in a cage, and you can just spam the hell out of this cage until something dies. So for the defending team, it's almost like, how do we position ourselves in a way that we don't get spammed to death in this little place, or get killed by a Widowmaker, or just trampled over by a deathball team, just because you're waiting for the crashing wave, right? Like tsunami's coming, and you're just standing here in this little square room.
Right. It's pretty chaotic. Once one person dies, usually it's pretty much very hard to come back, I feel like.
If you had to choose a composition for the attacker side, your bread and butter, this would work pretty well, what would you go with?
So many choices.
I'll allow you to have 2 different ones if you have to.
All right. Well, I think definitely I'm not gonna mention Death Ball too much because I feel like that's not gonna be I actually personally don't like Death Ball because I'm forced to play Lucy or Moira in that position, and I like Moira and stuff, but I don't like playing her as a Death Ball comp. I actually like playing her aggressive and seeing someone who's out of position and then just dive in and kill that support and then come back to my team, as opposed to just being heal the whole time,
Heal bot.
So yeah, I don't want to be the heal bot the whole time, basically. So I'd say since I'm gonna run Zen because he's so strong all the time, I'll go Zen, another healer, not Lucio preferably. Anamora, Mercy. Mercy's pretty good. I like her just because she can do the damage boost so much, and that just more consistent healer that she can heal me if someone dives me. As for the supports, tanks definitely Divey, Diva, Winston. Now that Diva is a little bit changed, I still think she's probably gonna be really strong just because of the main defense matrix. There was a defense matrix change as well. But those two like Divey characters that carry chaos is pretty good. Or for the other tanks, Reinhardt, Zarya, you can throw in a Roadhog randomly, but the definitely more Divey, and then take like one of the Sombras, Tracers, Genji, or a Widow, depending on who they are. But like someone that's quick, like I think Genji is really good here, and the Tracer they can cause chaos to the back line, like the supports in the back line. So it's,
Would you say this is like a Divey pick comp, which is kind of like not really the same comp idea as like a straight dive where you just like everyone's in, because then you have the Zenyatta and the Widowmaker that can like grab things, or a Roadhog that can grab somebody and then make it a 5v6, and then you just capitalize, right?
Yeah, so like that, what I mean by divey is just someone that can go in the back and do something, right? So some chaos,
Sure.
but there's also a little bit of like leeway, because you can run Lucio, but if you run Lucio, then I have to go in kind of with them, because in high level plays, most of the time the defending side will have somebody sitting at the top, and that they'll be like the Tracer or Genji, and then they'll just jump down and be like, okay, where are you? They'll look for the Zen to kill, and then so it just becomes like, am I lucky enough that I got a headshot on them before they came out, and then they have to run away, or I'm dead? It's kind of like that.
No,
so
I love that composition specifically for a variety of reasons, especially on attack. Like we said, the defending team, is standing in this cage. Sometimes this cage is very well protected. You'll have a bunch of shields. Depending on the rank that you are, sometimes this thing might be filled with turrets, making it very, very dangerous to go in there. But your composition in general, when it's that mobile, allows you to maybe go up into the high ground, spam the people from there. If you're running a Tracer, you can just kind of poke from the side. You're looking for that weakness. You're trying to see where they're out of position. If you're running a Widow in particular, I think it's quite effective because you can play her at a range with your Mercy, like you said, damage boosting her, and just constantly having this huge threat that if they want to deal with, they have to come out of their little cage, little room, and as soon as they come out, you have Diva, Winston, maybe a Genji or a Tracer paired with your Widow that can immediately dive whoever dares step out of that place and get rid of them really quick. If you need to, you can come back to your Widowmaker Mercy for heals, and they kind of rinse and repeat. But in this map is a composition that is very versatile, can get basically anywhere in this map and capitalize on anyone who's out of position. If they decide to just stay in the room, then you have your damage boosted Widowmaker just wreaking havoc on them. Especially if you have a good shot Widowmaker, it's only a matter of time until you get that headshot on somebody.
Now, a quick question for you, Roshan. When you come to the rare occasions that you have a team that's giving you a rough time on this point, what are some of your key indicators that you either need to make your comp switches or you need to play differently with the comp that you have given what they're showing you? What are some of those big indicators where you're like, okay, this is not working, or what is it that the enemy team is presenting you that's making it difficult to go in?
So when that's happening, usually I notice that the flankers are getting picked off. So then, they're not good enough to do this, or the other team is just too strong. And that happens when they have a nice shield base. So usually they'll be an Orisa setup. They might put a Torb on there, or they'll just put like a soldier, or they'll have their own Widows in the back. But they usually have a shield protection, and they'll just kind of sit there. And whenever you're losing, you feel like that shield is always up. That's what I've noticed. Like, and I can't take that point. I'm just like, the shield is never going down. This is like something's wrong. So that's when I'm like, yeah, let's put in Junkrat. Like, that's like my favorite part, because he can just get so much easy ult charge fast, and like maybe they'll run a Mei or something, or Symmetra, so sometimes you can't get in. So there's like lots of little shields everywhere, and just like just tossing junk, make him throw stuff randomly. You usually get someone hit, and then that once the tire's up, that tire like blows up that whole area basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's one.
it's the entire range.
Yeah, I like that. I do like Sombra now. So her EMP there is insane because it just covers the whole area again. So just if you organize stuff with her, it works. But that's probably high level, and I think lower level would be a little bit harder to do. So I think Junkrat would probably the easiest because his ult is so big and you just like throw it in there. So yeah, maybe change from divey if your flankers are diving to something more a little bit stationary. So then you use Reinhardt to shield you, and you everyone goes to one side to force the other team to rotate in a sense. And then maybe put someone that would be consistent DPS, that instead of flanking around, they'll be just shooting at the shield, or they'll run a Pharah to be a little bit more annoying from the sides because they're also a great map. You would have to look at what they're running. Right? If there's a lot of hit scan, then probably Pharah's not going to be good. So then you can run junk. But if there isn't a lot of hit scan, they're running tracers and Genjis themselves, then you can put in someone like that there as well. So it's kind of like you have to look at the team comp to really know. But the main thing, like I said, when you are losing, it just seems like as a support, you look at the middle point, that big window, and you just see like that shield is never going down.
Yeah.
And they're just holding that area as well.
And I definitely agree with you. The divey composition that we were talking about does require a lot of finesse, and hopefully having players that, are sneaky, can get in and out, get those clean, quick kills from a distance, or as a tracer, just, sneaking and getting that kill, getting out without getting killed. And that does require a certain level of skill. If you're playing against a team that is very good at stopping that, you might not be able to pull that off. And I like plan B. Plan B is spam the point. Just get as much damage in there as you can. Yeah. Get the shields down. Junkrat is great for that, like you said. Any hero that can create this huge spam and you can just keep bombarding in there. Even a soldier 76 can be good for this kind of thing too. If you just need to do some firepower to push through. Roadhog can be incredibly good as well. You can break shields really fast with him, and your whole hog is basically like a clean sweep of the place. Just get out of my house kind of move.
All right. I think we can shift gears and go on to defense. So how do we defend this point? Where do you set up, and why is it not on the point? I'm just kidding. Because this is the common pitfall that I feel like a lot of people are doing, or maybe the common just setup when the first defense fails, the first defense succeeds. You just kind of just like put the shield up on the point, 6 people sit down, have a little campfire, make some marshmallows, and wait for the next push, right? So where do you set up, and why, and what's good with different comps, etc.?
All right, so I'll do it as from the Zen's perspective, just because I've been doing it a lot and I find it very good. The first thing, obviously they better have a shield if I'm playing Zen, because I'm gonna be then like left alone. It's just really hard to like play hide and seek the whole time. So I set up right away in the top. So I'm gonna do it from the defender's perspective, top left, on that little like ledge for a little bit, and that's when the point starts. Because my job is to build ult as fast as possible. I need that defensive ult before like a Genji ult or something. So it's really important that I get so much damage in. So I start right clicking that usually the right corner, because everyone comes now from the attacking side. You go to the left side. You don't want to go to the right because there's only spam going on. So you just go to the left. So I'm gonna shoot the right corner, so it's inverse from the defending side. So I'm going to be shooting that, and hopefully, Reinhardt will be running in first, and then there's people that are trickling behind him, and usually that gives me some chance to hit him a bunch of times. And then the idea is that they probably run divey or something as well. So as soon as they see me there, then I'm giving them that like indication, like, oh, Zen's there. And basically, you have to kind of start to understand, like, oh, you see that like a Winston saw you, and then immediately just run back, because the Winston's going to jump, and then he's just going to get there, and there's nobody there. And then he's wasting his jump, and then you can actually do something off that. So I've gotten better at starting to play mind games with these divas and these Winstons that are constantly diving me, because I used to like see like, okay, oh, here comes the jump, and I see this jump coming at me, and I'm like, oh, I get hit, and I'm like, and there's nothing I can do at that point. Like I just have to hit I can get them to like 182 HP or half health, depending on how good they are and whatever. And then I'm just like, I'm dead. And it's just like, and it's like if I'm dead right away, so it's kind of risky, but if you start to judge the distance, then it's like super effective. So you start to play mind games with them with that. And then once the team comes in, then I can drop down. And I always look around based on where is the team going. And the one thing I wanted to mention on attacking side is the if you go right or left, because not always dive works. So like if whole team goes to the left, then that shield is going to get rotated in the middle on the defensive side. So then I like to stay back as Zen and just look out the window and just wait for them to rotate that shield. As soon as they rotate that shield, I can discord and I can start hitting Orissas and all these people. And I usually get random headshots, or I do get some picks. And then that huge pick on like a Mercy that's discorded is then boom, the key change to the game. So it's really important to pay attention to where the team is going to orient themselves on the attacking side. So I'm flipping back now to defense.
And definitely to coordinate with them.
Yeah, so now I'm on
Voice
defense.
chat's really big.
Yeah, I'm on defense, and then I usually as a support, it's so you don't want to be right in the middle of that like prison, you would say, because there's so many angles. The widow can pick you off, and then once they dive in there, you just can't escape. So I usually try to see where are the most people are coming from. If they're on the right, I'm gonna start to push to the left and just kind of like start to fade away. So if I'm on the left, there's that staircase, and then there's also that mega pack at the bottom of the level. So I can hang out there, and then I can just keep shooting through that. And usually even the Annas will do the same thing, or so, because you're stationary more. So then I can escape. You want to have to be constantly rotating based on where the team's going. So that was my positioning. I guess I like threw in a lot.
No. I
Sure,
think
sure.
that is exactly what I wanted you to say, because this point is really hard to defend. Half of the time is because the defense is too static. They're basically just hanging out in that room, and then makes it so predictable and so vulnerable, like we've said, to just spam, right? Like the enemy team sometimes doesn't even have to aim at you that precisely. They just need to throw things in there, and sometimes you will die just because you're in such close quarters. And one of the best things that you can do is be paying attention, like you said, to where the attacker team is coming. If they're coming from the left, adjust a little bit so that if they push in with everything they have, you can back out a little bit and come out or come back when it's appropriate, or be able to defend your back line like that. There's nothing worse than having all of your front line shooting the left side, and then a tracer comes in through the right side and nobody's looking at that flank, and your poor Zen just dies immediately, or your Widowmaker gets picked off, your Mercy gets picked off, and your backline kind of never turn around, and they're like, why am I not getting healed? Well, that's because your healer's dead now.
Right.
So definitely being versatile with that, moving around. Another room that I think is a little bit underutilized is the hydroponic chamber. If you're standing on the point from the defender's perspective to your right, there's this little room with that like hydroponic tank with all the plants in it.
There's a mini health pack in
With
there,
a
too.
mini health pack in there. And this room is actually really easy to defend because you have the tank in the middle that you can kite around. And it's harder to do with an uncoordinated team. But if the other team, for example, uses Lucio ult or uses Transcendence and is engaging with that, and you know, like, well, we're not winning this fight because they're engaging with their ults at this moment, it's a good room to kind of back out into and then re-engage when it's safer, when that ultimate is down, and maybe you can counter with your own ultimates, for example. But I think it's a little bit underutilized. People just like hanging out in that middle room a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's a really odd place to stick up, because basically what you're doing is you're setting it up as if the point is now your bait, where the enemy team has to go there and you have to defend it. So it's funneling both teams to the same location in order to attack and defend. But what you're doing is you're setting up a reverse attack to defend, so that when the enemy team engages on the point, it's literally just them like walking on there or jumping on there, looking to see where you are blindly, or at lower ranks or at the higher ranks, they're just kind of like going in and they're like, okay, where are they? And then you kind of just like, everyone jumps out of that little room, and then boom, you actually have the initiation, the element of surprise, the whole dive on your own, that you're using it as an aggressive defense. It's a very flip-flop style of play, but it does work. And I think it's really hard to convince people in bronze, silver, gold, platinum to do this strategy, unless they're a lot of people that are like really into this sort of thing, like watching Overwatch League or watching high-level streamers do this. But Roshan, what would you say? Is this a common occurrence for some of your games, like when you've been playing this, or does it really depend on the team comp whether you can pull that off or not?
To be counter divey, you mean, or like what?
Yeah, the counter dive. Yeah.
It's been more popular a little bit now. I mean, I had a game where we didn't even have a shield, and I had to be just kind of like hovering around on the the left side, and then obviously I would have to rotate to that hydroponics room as well as a
Sure.
sign. So, but if your team is good, they can do that. Especially you can like the thing that I said where I'm baiting the Winston to jump at me, and then
Right.
usually I peek out of the corner and I look at them, and then they see me or make that eye contact. And I'm like, okay, boom, and I shoot my volley, and I just start running away because immediately these things are it's like a robot. It's just programmed to just go there. It's just like, oh, Zen, go.
Yeah.
And then you go, and then if your Winston is doing the same thing, then as soon as that he jumps in, then your Winston jumps in, and they all just kill that guy because he has no jump to escape now. And I'm already like gone. I'm just like running away. I'm like, see ya, and that would work, but at lower level, I feel like that would be pretty tough. So from my experience, most of the time, I don't see it as much on the first point. I see it more on the second point. You know, the Winston coming out.
That's fair.
And that makes sense. And I think like what you said is right. Like it's starting to become more common just because there's so many examples of how to do it nowadays that I think that people are just getting more used to that play style in general. I mean, if you look at Overwatch League, I know you haven't watched much of it, but the top team in the league right now is New York Excelsior, and they do exactly that. One of their top players is Jonak, a Zen player, and he's just standing in the back, usually damage boosted by his Mercy, just a killing machine in there that the enemy team has to be like, we have to kill Jonak. And the second that guy pops up, is like everybody dives Jonak, but his team, basically what they do is just counter dives him all the time. You have Sabiobi, one of the best tracers in the world, just on your ass immediately the second you dive him. And it works really well. Zen is almost like the bait, a very dangerous bait because he can kill you very quick if you're not careful. But then your team is just, putting Zen out there like, hello, boys, how's it going? And as soon as they dive him, everybody dives them.
Yeah, it must feel really good playing as Jonak because I always dream of having these Mercies constantly pocketing me and feeling like a guy.
Oh, you would love it, man. You would love it.
It's the best.
Cool.
Yeah,
Is there anything else you want to say on this first point, either an attack or defense? Any other little tips, any little flanks, anything in particular you like doing in this map that we haven't mentioned?
Like I said, the main thing for me is because Zen doesn't have any footsteps and what. On the attack side, I usually like to hang back and then have my team run through, and they let them kind of like start the chaos, let them fight, and then I'll wait for the shield to rotate. But if there's tracers and stuff, then I'll try to kind of wait, maybe beat the tracer, and as long as the tracer's picked, I can do the same thing. Or sometimes I just go in the opposite direction. If I feel the momentum's in our favor, then I will try to pick people up from behind with some right clicks and stuff because they get surprised since you can't hear me. And then defense, I do use the hydrophonic thing more now, and like I said, I try to be a little bit more mobile. I don't want to be staying as much in one spot just because then people start coming in. The more I move around, the more angles and flanks I create that I can then utilize as a Zen, because you want to damage more. But if you're like an Ana, I would recommend too with Ana moving a little bit as well. But she has a little bit more survivability with her grenade and sleep, so she can take the risk. And then the one thing is, if once you're capping the point and you guys already know you won, I would suggest right away to move forward. And as a Zen, see if you can play more aggressive than you think. Try to sneak into their back line pretty quickly because you're, again, stealthy. So most people don't look, but if you go to the bottom right, once you go to the second point, you can just hide underneath. There's a little health back there, and you can just hide, and people won't even realize that you're there. And then once the fight starts, you're just like holding on, waiting to start like a right click, and you can initiate with a right click on somebody that might not know. Or there's also your Widow might have the hacks by that time, the wall hacks, and you can use that to set up yourself. So a lot of people don't use wall hacks, I think, correctly, because you use that to set up yourself in a proper position because you know where the team is. It's not always trying to get the picks with it.
Ah, nice little tip over there. I like the flanks end too. I think we have Bob in the chat over here saying that he's seen it a couple of times in the league as well. And it makes sense, right? with Zen, literally nobody can hear you. You can get anywhere, and as long as they don't see you, you're basically invisible. Because yeah, nobody can hear your footsteps, and you're very deadly. Like if you can get in the back and they haven't seen you, especially with your range, you can sneak in a couple of kills in there.
Oh yeah, and then
So
that's
let's sneak on to point B.
yeah.
You want to talk about how you approach it on attack beyond the flank?
Yeah. So, there's that. Once you go to point B, there's that, I don't know, middle pathway where there's so many spots. I guess there's one,
Ramp?
two, the ramp. Yeah, there's 4 entrances. The main entrance, the bottom right, top right, and then bottom left. So as a support, most of the time people try to go top right, and they want to take the high ground from them. So the thing to watch out for, I would say right away, is the flankers that will be coming from the left. That's just like even Roadhogs will come from the main. They'll just walk in there and just like hook and then get you, because usually you're the back line. Even if you're anyone, you could be any support. Usually you're in the back unless you're Lucio. So it's something to like watch out right away. So I'm assuming like you guys already capped the point and everyone's going together. You might get harassed a little bit from the left side from tracers and stuff. So having that in mind and being ready, you could expect it, so then you could catch them. And then if you catch them, then there's a pick for you right there. Like I said, I usually prefer that the team pushes up a little bit further and maybe hopefully get a stagger off the team that was not prepared for you. So then it's a lot easier to take the point now because they're down a man or two. And you want that momentum. So with any like assault maps, I feel like having that momentum is super important, where maybe if we cap the point without using any ults, now we have the ult advantage because we probably built more of it than they did since we killed them. So now you have this advantage, and you really want to keep that push going. So if you have that momentum in the early game, then you get all the time in the world like to win it. Like you win in the first minute and you win in the second minute right away, and then boom, that's like huge, right? And then that's a huge downfall mentally for the other team, because they're like, crap, now we have to do so well to come back and stuff like that. And usually
that second point is where the defender is banking on burning the most time, usually too. Is like, okay, this is our time to hold. If you're able to snowball like that, it's like, yeah, huge psychological hit.
Spawners are just so close. It's like
Right.
Anubis all over again. It's just like even easier to get onto the point, it feels.
Right. So if I'm going with the team, we'll go top right. You can charge up some shots, and usually you could try to break their shield because they're gonna be on the top right too, unless there's if they're not doing flankers. So you could just push them off eventually. Again, I like to do a little bit more moving around and play a little bit more sneaky, especially if there's that stupid flanker coming at you all the time and you expect it. Then you just like, okay, I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go top right. I'm just gonna go bottom right, and I'm gonna wait. And then the flanker starts looking for you and they can't find you. And eventually they have to turn around and start fighting because they're wasting time, right? So I like to sneak in bottom right a lot once the fight breaks out, because no one's really there. And then you can hear like an Ana maybe camping or something. You could just sneak all the way around and go to the staircase, maybe pick someone off, or just hang out there, and you can just keep discording people and shooting people from the right side because there's a health pack for you. Or once the team fight breaks in as well, go to the left side. There's that, I don't know, what do you call that big hallway with the mega pack there?
Yeah, it's
I think
like
people just call it long. But
Long, okay.
Long, or like the observatory room where you can have like a little access to the not access, but you can see the outside. There's the big
like
health
a
pack at the left.
cafe almost.
Yeah, it's like a lounge.
Yeah, the lounge. Yeah, you go there
lounge,
as well, and you get a lot of angles to shoot from. I really like the idea when there is a stall going on and they're trying to go to overtime. I don't like being in the middle of the point as a support unless I'm Moira, because that's who they have to kill, because that's what keeps the sustain going.
Right.
So I like hiding on the right side where that mini pack is, because they have to look for you. And I like that long side because they're trying to just stall. So they're not going to try to just go exactly kill you, because their job is to get on point. So then if, from that perspective, you just see everyone fighting and you're just like, okay, I just discord this and shoot it. Or I'm healing that as an Ana, for example. But you can see everybody from that side, but then they don't notice you in the very beginning when they come out. So
Right, because they're not looking there. And on top of that, like the best part about that spot that I've noticed recently is even when they are looking for you and they're fighting you, they're not going to the point where they should be, and you can just get some free charge, or they can't get any extra stall points by being on the point, because then you're basically just peeling for your whole team to cap. And if you die in the crossfire because you pulled one or two off, that's 1 or 2 that your team didn't have to deal with in the first place. And so if you die, if you die and they chased you all the way back there, then chances are you've either capped a point or gotten a whole tick out of the deal. And so you take those,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned.
And because you're support, so it doesn't matter what support you are, they're gonna try to kill you if they know, especially if you're Zen. So you're that best bait. So if you're hiding off the point and they go there, now they got maybe let's say they're not as coordinated, so they send a Winston and a Tracer there, and then all of a sudden they C9, right? And then you just win the point because they just fell for the bait. So maybe you are, like I said, you die, but you took some picks off, and maybe they just C9 because of that. So I would recommend if you can have long range healing to just stay on the side, if like Anna, for example. And then if you're Moira, I would probably stay with the team. And then Lucio obviously is going to fly around, and, as well as Mercy. And that's in that position also, don't forget that you have to support the healers first because they sustain everything. So if I'm Zen, I'm going to just throw my orb on Mercy or Moira as much as I can just to keep them alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that the name of the game on the attacker side is, can you get that quick pick, 1 or 2 real fast to snowball it, to put the defensive team in a really bad situation, and then you can move it into the point, clean up as fast as you can, because speed is the name of the game over here. As soon as you get the pick 1 or 2, you gotta make a move on it. You can't doubt it. Like we said, this point is stall land for the defense, and if you give him the time to stall, a decent team will stall you for a long, long time. So you have to be quick and swift about it. I think that a couple other strategies that I like on this defense point is, for example, whether your team is going right or left, having a tracer, for example, that can just get on their point really quick sometimes throws the defending team off balance, especially if they're defending up top, for example, and your team hasn't fully engaged, but your tracer is kind of like already capping their point. Sometimes a lot of people kind of freak out a little bit, and like their tanks will drop into the point immediately, and it can be like a bait. Like you're not trying to engage with your tracer, but you're just trying to like make him have to start moving towards the point real quick to allow your team to have a better position, or get him off of high ground so your team can move into the high ground. You can put your soldier up there, for example, or whatever spammy hero you have up there. And I think that there's a couple other ways that you can approach the map, right? I think that we've seen some teams just go straight into the point from the middle or from the left, use the speed boost, and just be like, boom, we're here in the point. Come challenge us, depending on what composition they're using. Let's talk about it from the defensive side too. Where do you like positioning yourself on defense in this particular map? Because there's a couple ways that you can go about it.
Yeah. Now recently I've been positioning myself always either to the far right or to the far left, a little bit like back.
Like in the back of the point?
Almost in the
Yeah,
corner.
yeah, in the corner.
Yeah, but that not too much in the corner, because then if they come to me, I can't escape still. So I almost like hang around, because there's like 2 little like walls. There's that little window that you can hide behind that you can't shoot from. And it's like a hallway, and then there's your spawn hallway as well. So I kind of hover between the two because, again, I use myself as a bait, and someone like a Winston will try to dive me. And, as soon as I see that, I'm already backing up to my spawn. And then usually I get actually really, really upset because they'll call me like sissy or something for running back to spawn. And then they get killed. So it works really well. I used to hang out too much in the corner where I couldn't have time to get out. And then like a Genji or Tracer comes up and I just don't have enough time to get to spawn to heal myself. So hovering by that spawn area is so nice. And then you can still see your whole teammates up top, and you can still Discord, or if you're Anna, you can still do all the healing. The only thing I would mention is if you're hovering there the whole time and you are Zen and they have a Zarya or they have some kind of ultimate that's going to be doing everything to your team, and your team is up top or something, you need to get to your team because you won't have time to go and save the team with your ult. I've gotten stuck before where I'm on like far right corner and my team's in the top left and I have my ult, and then they just get Zarya grabbed, and then I'm like, oh, I'm running, and too late, So pay attention to your ultimate as well with that. If you're a hero, like even like if you're Moira, pay attention to their ultimates and as well to how far you are, so you can do all that stuff. But those are the
Another-
2 spots I'd say for support. It's just like so easy to hang out now.
Now, I want to mention something for both offense and defense that's a very common issue. Is that I think on this point, more than most areas, it's I see DPS that jumps off of favorable positions on high ground way too early. Like your soldiers, even tracers and Genjis. Even though Genjis want to get in the action, when they get the dash kills, you want to get the the melee triple shuriken shots. I mean, literally any distance hero can benefit from being in close quarters when they're wanting to confirm kills. But in this zone, with it being so open and so tall, I found that I still see, soldiers and widows just like jumping off of that high ground for no reason. And when they're tanks and or Moira or like one of the 2 healers and the 2 tanks are like contesting and capping the point. It just doesn't make any sense to me why those people are getting onto the point, getting easily killed by the defending team, or the defending team basically just giving up their high ground advantage. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know why people get off of this, but Roshan, maybe you can speak to like maybe the appropriateness of DPS getting on and off of these high ground positions.
Well, like when you're on top of that, I think that the thing gets tempting. Like, right, you say you're on the high ground as a soldier and you're shooting somebody, and it was like, let's say it was a Roadhog or something, or a Diva, and they're like maybe close to being one shot, and they hid behind that pillar. So you feel like, oh, I have to go and play aggressive, and you jump down and you try to finish them off. Yes, you might finish them off, but then all of a sudden the other 2 people are going to end up, putting you in a vulnerable spot so you can get killed by someone else, for example. So you're almost better off like, okay, maybe I should not get that pick. And then you have to be patient with that idea in mind, especially if you have no threat to you. The only time I would say like it's appropriate to jump is obviously if you're the only person left, maybe, and you have the chance to cap it. But I mean, in most situations, in that situation, because the spawn is so close, you probably won't be able to cap it by yourself unless you're just some like amazing player. Then I would just run back anyways. So yeah, just don't get tempted to get the kill. It's just more of you're maybe trying to get your ult off, and you're trying to support the team based on how many players are on the point. So and another thing is maybe there's 2 players on the point, and you want to speed up the point, so you want to jump in there and to cap it. But that might be again in itself a bad thing, because now you're in a vulnerable position. And to re-emphasize that if you are not on the point, someone has to come from the defensive team to take you down. That means less people on the point from the defensive side. So pulling as many people off the point to come to you is also a good thing. So that's why I would keep the high ground as much as you can, or just whatever the side, like I was saying before, would force people to do off the point.
Soldier in particular,
super huge in this one too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Soldier in particular and Widow to an extent as well are great heroes in this map, both because the high ground can overlook the entirety of the point, and they're basically at your efficient range. Like they're you can shoot the entire point with Soldier and deal a shitload of damage with almost no fall off at all. So he's a particularly incredible hero on attack to just put him up there, have that constant
McCree as
pressure.
well.
McCree can
The
be
high
pretty
noon
good
is
as well.
huge.
Yeah, with the high noon, you can just sweep the entire
Summer's
place.
more accurate. Like, there's so many good heroes up there.
Even
now.
even
It's like the
Zen
only
can do a
one.
lot of damage just
Yeah.
from sitting up there.
Junkrat's really good too there.
Junkrat's ridiculous up there.
Mhm.
But before we transition, Andres, to like any other things you wanted to cover, I wanted to make sure we took this as a priority, because this is something that I've noticed a lot of high level players doing, and next to 0 people in my games doing, which is utilizing the red beams above the high ground.
Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about that too.
So you want to talk about that, Roshan?
Yeah, those
I was
are
gonna
great.
mention those. Yeah.
Those are great on defense. Let's definitely touch on those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're the attacking side, you have to pay attention to that, because there could be a Fair there, there could be a Winston there, there could be Doomfist sometimes, or Junkrat. I don't think I've seen Doomfist there, but I've seen Junkrats there.
Yeah,
Yo,
Junkrat's
definitely
love that
Junkrat, J-Crad
Yeah.
popularized that strategy up there. Let's talk about what the beams are for those of the listeners that don't know at
Sure.
all what we're talking about.
Well, the beams are at the very top of the ceiling, and they kind of run. I'm actually looking at the picture. They run. It's like a crisscross, right? I think there's only 2.
Yeah,
one
there
Should
too.
only be 2, and one of them
Yeah.
moves.
It's basically like a moving platform at the very very top It's like this huge iron beam
Yeah.
that's like rotating in
Bright
between.
red.
Yeah, very bright red. A lot of people don't know that you can get in here. They think that that's kind of like the ceiling of the map, but you can actually get on top of this moving platform, and basically gives you a vantage point over the high ground. For Junkrats, for example, this can be super efficient because it allows you to spam your grenades right into the choke point with visibility. Like, you don't have to kind of just pretend like you are shooting at something from the low ground. You can actually see what you're shooting at. Your grenades bounce off straight into them. It's really powerful. For them to get you, they have to commit a lot of resources into you, since you can usually lob it over shields. And it's just very, very hard for them to have a good angle on you up there.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before, and I think probably the best person to go there is like a diva, just to charge in and knock him off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That spot
Yeah.
works really well. Or if you have your own Thera, they could boop him off or hit him as well. But it does something, create some chaos, and you have to be aware of it. Sometimes you don't even notice that there's a widow just sitting there, and she could be picking people off. So someone has to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, the people that do sit up there, a lot of times they do think that they're like invisible, like a widow, and you can actually easily kill them with 2 headshots or something with a Zen or an Ana, or whatever support you're gonna play. So you could just call it out, and a lot of times they're just kind of blind to it because they're doing their own thing, looking down too much.
Yeah.
Now, I'll have to say this. I have very rarely seen this. I think I've only watched Fitzy do it like once. But getting a Sombra translocator up there is really difficult to do. But if you can do it, you basically like hide in the very back, wait for the team to engage, and like when they go up there to look, you can use your spidey senses and like your like waiting techniques by just using the stealth and just sitting in place. And then the team engages and you just drop down an EMP out of nowhere, and it just like they flip their noodle on the enemy team. They have no clue what's going on. They're just like, where did they even come from? So it's pretty nutty, and it's super cool. Especially I've seen Fitzy do it where he's timed it to not only use the translocator to get up there, but set the translocator back up there, drop down, EMP, and then translocate right back up there again. And it's the silliest rubber band thing I've ever seen, but it's really cool. Definitely something I'm gonna see some more people try at our game night at the end of the month. So hint,
Yeah,
hint, if
actually
you guys are
haven't seen
listening, go try it out. It's really cool, but good luck getting your translocator up there because it ain't easy. I'm gonna go in a couple custom games and try it out.
Absolutely. Kind of to wrap it up on defense, I think that the spot that you mentioned, kind of like the back of the point for the squishier heroes, is a great spot to hang around with. You have a lot of cover. You can go back to your spawn if needed, if things get really hairy. I think that the high beams that we mentioned can be a great spot for certain DPS players to hang around and wait for the ambush. I also think that sometimes holding the high ground can be pretty effective. I think that holding high ground sometimes can be a little risky, just because if the enemy team just decides to full rush you or dive you, sometimes they can get a few picks just like that, just because you're in a semi-vulnerable spot. There's not a lot of places that you can run to. Like, you can throw yourself below, but then you have given the high ground to the enemy, and they will probably be able to shoot you down from up there. So just kind of a risky spot, but definitely can also be a good spot to hold. But again, you gotta rely on having good tanks to pull that one off, and
Right.
hopefully your tanks are up there with you. I wouldn't advise holding the high ground as a support player, for example, if you don't have any tank support up there. Is there anything else that we missed over here? Any other places you like in particular?
Well, I was gonna say that in general, like you have to think of the game because it's like holding something. I would say it's more. It has to be dynamic. You have to feel a sense of when to need to change things. So, like if you're attacking and the team's holding top right and it's just wasn't working, breaking that shield, then yeah, maybe everyone has to go bottom left and then just completely force them off the ground based on where you're gonna go. And and the same thing for defense. Like when I hold high ground for a little bit, it's usually for a very little time because I'm trying to just shoot them, maybe get a few shots or a couple of right clicks, get someone low, maybe get a pick. And if it's, I can see that the tanks are pushing through, then I just jump down and just go right away to my spot because it's just too risky. There's somebody like a Genji ult or something, just somebody just runs in there. It's like such tight quarters and becomes a big chaos, or someone else volleys through you and just you don't see it because it's such a long distance, and you just get picked off. So knowing when to move is what's more important, I think, than where you stand all the time.
Wise
Understanding
words.
understanding when you're in a bad spot. Like you have to just see, like, oh, you lost a couple of players. Okay, there's no way we're gonna hold it here. It's not like, all right, we're holding top. Like you know, you have to constantly be applying and adapting. And then another thing I was gonna mention is the use of Torb on this. Is you see it sometimes, but I've had one player that did a really good Torb play, and he was mentioning it, and it worked really well. So putting the turrets either on the left side first, or on that long area where that lounge area is, you put the turret there. So once you put the turret there, someone's gonna have to go and fight it. And then as soon as they do that, you just go to the other side and you put a turret on the other side. You just keep rotating the turret left and right, left and right. So you don't actually hang out with the turret too much. You just put it on the far right, and then
That's a spicy meatball.
and then you go right away to the other side. So the turret's constantly jumping around, and then that's forcing the team to constantly move for it and look for it. You know.
So they're doing this level 1 turrets, Roshan, or are they doing
two.
level 2 if they can get away with it? Okay.
If he can get away with it, it was 2. And he was just saying that, like, as soon as they go right, I'm just gonna put the turret to the left. And it was working super well, and they did not know what's going on, and the turret was always up.
That's probably super annoying for the attacking team. Why is this turret always up? Jesus.
Right, because usually Torbs will always stay with the turret, and then in this map particularly, you could hide the turret enough in that corner, for example, the far right corner of the lounge.
Yep.
Nobody can, like, a widow can't just snipe it.
What's the truck? You can put it like off the platform, off the truck, or like between the platform and the truck or something on the back left.
So basically, the turret can see the map, the defensive point, but then you can't see it from the front. So then you have to go there to kind of kill it. And he was just moving around with it, and then obviously some of us were moving with him, and that was like super effective. And I don't see that as much. And I think that in general, for any Torb play, I think that is probably something that they do. But,
nice.
So
as a disclaimer, though, we don't take any responsibility for any increase in Torbs in your Horizon Lunar Colony games.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to mention this too. I know that we keep kind of piggybacking new heroes and stuff, but that's the beauty of Overwatch. Is a lot of times you just find something that works and you want to try it. So maybe you're not, big into Zen, or you're not big into Moira, or damage boosting somebody on Mercy, or playing Widowmaker, but there's another hero that I've noticed that is really good all round on this map is Roadhog. I found Roadhog to be increasingly more potent on offense and defense, especially on point B, because of the staying power and self-sustain that he has on the point by himself if he's not getting healed, and kind of just the single body threat that he is. Pretty much anywhere he goes is enough to get people distracted off of supports to peel, or if he's ignored, punishing if they don't. And he has a lot of like zoning potential as well with his ultimate. And like you said, Roshan, like pairing this kind of a hero with a Torbjorn seems really potent, especially on defense, just by zoning people out with the alternation of Molten Core for Torb and gosh, I can't remember. I always call it Piggy Barrage. What's the ult? I can't remember.
Full hog.
Whole hog.
When
he uses the zoning on that, and that does a ton of damage to tanks and to barriers and gets people off. And then on top of that, you can even run a Mei for this point as well if you're not running the Torb or not running another DPS. Especially when you're just trying to get the time or get it to OT. There's a lot of really good corners that you can come in on both left and right side if you're getting zoned out on your spawn. And especially with the brand new changes that kind of pushed out this week with Retribution, wow, you can do a lot of work with Mei on this point, because you can just like drop a blizzard, you can penetrate targets, you can get more ult charge faster with Mei on defense when you're hitting multiple targets with your spray. You can just completely get utility Mei and just start slowing people down as they come in. There's lots of things you can do if you're playing sightlines on those ranged heroes, especially if they're doing what we said earlier, where they're just jumping off the high ground to cap the point.
I think Mei in general, like the one point where she really shines is usually on point B of assault maps. And not only on Horizon Lunar Colony, like most point Bs of assault maps, I think that you can pull off a Mei just because of her staying power, right? You can, with the wall, with the ice block, you can stall for a really long time. She can be a clutch switch when you have lost the battle and you just need to just stall for a little longer to hopefully get it to OT or something. Just kind of like a quick little swap that you can do.
Yeah, and don't forget the Reaper changes too now. That I
Ooh,
think he's
yeah.
actually very strong on any overtime pushes and stuff like that because he can get super good picks and killing those tanks.
Mhm.
And now that he can be so much more mobile with
He's
the
so
ult,
much beefier.
yeah, I think he's actually a very good choice for either if you're stalling or if you're attacking. And just because it just wrecks.
Yeah.
And he once he puts the
Absolutely.
ult up in the middle of that, everyone has to get off. It's just kind of like pretty strong.
I'm not a very good Roadhog at all either, I have to say, and I played Roadhog to win a game like on this map just because like if your healers are really struggling to stay alive, you just basically peel for them and try to make it so that they don't have to heal you. It's kind of a good thing. I know any Zen, including myself as a resident support main that loves playing Zen. I love Roadhogs that sit on top of me and defend me. It's quite nice. I'll give them a Discord any day. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that'll wrap it up for the
That'll do it,
Horizon Lunar
yeah?
Colony. Yeah, that's a good little talk.
All right, well, let's get into the rundown. We're going to get into the fun at the very end, talking about Retribution, but let's talk about Blue Posts. Let's talk some news, and I'm going to get a quick, fast recap on what it was that we've talked about in the past weeks that were on PTR that are now live. So quick and fast, there is a link in the show notes from a very nice user that's been doing this for the last couple times. On Reddit, they do a GIF of all of the changes with kind of a parallel vision in the training room as what they look like and some of the key indicators in a very fast-paced manner. So I put that in the show notes. If you'd like to check it out, you'll see some of the notable things in there, but not everything. The first thing that I will touch on is that there's also a link to the official patch notes if you'd like to check them out. First up, we have Diva. The micro missiles and the boosters were nerfed in damage. It is a 22% overall explosive damage nerf for the micro missiles, which basically means that each individual missile explosion goes down from 6 damage to 4, and the boosters go from 25 to 10. May's primary fire, as mentioned before, penetrates targets, which means it applies the slow and the damage for both, regardless if it's hitting multiple targets. And it will not pierce barriers, but it will pierce heroes. Moira had the transparency adjustment, so you don't get your face blinded off on either side of being a Moira or being the enemy hit by the Moira with the right-click damage or the secondary fire damage ability and or the Coalescence ultimate. And as RossianSpy just mentioned, Reaper has 3 adjustments, 2 to Wraith Form, 1 to Death Blossom. Death Blossom now reloads after you use it. And Wraith Form now has double the speed from 25% to 50% increased speed, as well as allowing you to cancel the Wraith Walk with 2 different ways. And I messed this up a lot in the event because I didn't know there was 2 ways you could cancel it. I thought there was only the one where you hit the ability. But if you try to fire your rifles, they are reloaded now, as they were before. And if you try to fire him, he'll let you because he's going to pull you out of it.
Yeah,
so you can cancel the Wraith Walk. So be careful when you want to shoot because it's going to happen. Then you got Doomfist, who actually got a horizontal hitbox registry bug fix, which was mentioned, but very, very small minutia in the bug fixing area. And I wanted to mention this because this is something that we talked about with Chips a couple weeks ago, where it's really frustrating with a couple targets that you're trying to hit. And on the smaller models especially, it's really tough for Doomfist to punch them. If he misses by just a hair or the net code kind of just doesn't register just right, if you're kind of off on your ping, it's really frustrating. And so this adjustment is a slight increase for Doomfist. And Brigitte has a toggle barrier in her settings now. So if you'd like to click the ability and use it to turn the barrier on and off instead of holding it, you can do that. And then we have the Zenyatta volley rate fired down by 15% so that the volleys, each individual shot between each shot, is now 15% slower. And then we have the biggest change, which is the one thing that we really want to talk about, is a Blizzard World 0.2 or 0.1 for when the payload's moving is now moved back by 10 meters. So this is a very significant change. I'm going to turn this over to RossianSpy to talk about and as to why.
Well, I mean, I think it was getting a little too out of control in that second point to when you were when you were attacking, because it goes into that little like main stage area when there's like a bunch of it's open, big open space, and their spawn is so close, it turns into basically TCP again, and they can stall so well because there's actually multiple directions they can come from. And your path is so long to get there. So if you're one of you guys get picked off at the attacking side, you guys are pretty much have to start all over. And then that makes the payload push back again, and it just becomes really chaotic. So I think it was a nice change. Just makes it a little bit more quicker and flowier, and just not as hectic. Because again, there's so many, that map is so open too. There's so many spots you can be high ground, low ground. There's a little like hallways and stuff, and you can sneak from around things. That defending was just, that spot was a little too easy. Yeah, almost.
Yeah, lots of people are just not
agreed.
even seeing the third point of the map as not necessarily good design on payloads.
That
or
is my
hybrid maps
first
where
point too.
typically-
My favorite
Yeah.
point. I mean,
Yeah, the
Yeah, I like
favorite
the
the
third
favorite
point.
point of most people is point 3 because it's the
Mhm.
only part of the map that should be, in theory, in how all of the other maps have been designed, the defending favored point, not the second and the third. If you have 2 points that are defense favored, then it's traditionally not very even.
Right. It was
Yeah.
exactly like you said. Like the third point felt like the second point, and
Yeah,
it was even
yeah.
more because it's like closed off almost at one point. So like there's like you have this like cover to go behind, and then all of a sudden you can surprise that team to come from a different
Yeah.
angle.
It just
So-
funnels you too soon, and the distance for the spawn is exacerbated even more. So it's really, really tough to defend, especially if you just like, you're like, okay, they're gonna cap soon, so we're just gonna back off and we're gonna stall the hell out of them for like 10 minutes, and you can because it's their
Right.
spawn rate. You just gotta get one pick, and then you can just stall the heck out of them.
I think
So-
in general, these are all really welcome changes. Both Blizzard World map change and all these hero changes feel really, really good. Slightly bad news for Zenyatta's and Divas out there. Some of the Diva players that I know have already been speaking to the changes of her. Definitely a little noticeable in the burst damage. It's not as easy to finish off targets as it was before. She can still definitely do a lot of damage and definitely still
Right.
put the pressure that she could before, but definitely she's not getting the kills as quickly. It's a little bit noticeable there. For the
You
other,
won't notice. Andres, have you played a lot of Diva since the change?
not since the change, but I have played a lot of Diva
Okay.
in general.
Okay, because I was wondering if you had noticed any like slight downticks in your ultimate charge rate, because I feel like that's kind of a minor thing, but I don't think that these changes particularly adjusted how fast you could charge your ult, because it's more in the burst category, like you were saying.
Yeah, I don't know how much it impacts the ult. I think you still get it generally at around the same rate, maybe a tad bit slower. I wouldn't know, to be honest.
That's fair.
She still feels good. She's definitely not like out of the meta or by any means.
Oh, not at all. Yeah.
Well,
And-
I would agree that from my perspective, it feels really nice, and I've played against her now, and I have a lot more time to pop her out of mech now than before. Before I was just like, oh, just like slammed,
Trampled over.
Yeah, and just
The
like
flying eraser.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if I would get like mercy on me. I'm just dead. I'm just like, okay, thanks. No chance. So
yeah.
it feels really nice. I really like that change for me.
It definitely gives you a little more time to react against her nowadays instead of just being like, oh crap, Diva's on me, I'm dead.
Yep.
The other changes feel really good too. Reaper and May, I would say very welcome changes. I tried the Reaper a little bit in the event, and it feels really, really good. It does take a minute to get used to it, just because it feels weird being able to come out of Wraith form anytime that you want.
And shoot something.
But I can already
Immediately.
see the possibilities. Like, this might make Reaper a lot more appealing both in comp and Overwatch League. I hope to see a little bit more of him. We've had Reaper a little bit forgotten. He's gathering dust in the corner, so I hope we can take him out for a spin a little sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would
Roshan,
like
you
to
played
see.
with the Zen, right?
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You want to comment on it?
Oh, it doesn't really feel that much different. So I actually didn't like. I enjoyed it. I felt like, oh, like I'm still hitting as many things again. You almost don't. I didn't even know the patch was live when I was playing, and I just kept shooting. I didn't really realize that the change was there. I mean, you can still get the picks. You can still kill the widows. You might have to move a little bit more with the right click, like to adjust it, but you'll feel it. It's something that is not that big of a change for him, and I really think it was because the Jonak was
I
doing
was
all this stuff
about to say
before.
that.
They're just literally doing that because of him. They're kind of nerfing him
I
more,
was
but I don't.
literally about to say that. Like this is a Jonak nerf more than anything. I think that for the majority of Zenyatas out there, it's like what you said. It will be a very minor change, but for the people who can that are really squeezing every inch of damage out of this hero, it's more of a nerf to them.
Yeah, but it's like I said, it's not that big. You won't notice that much, and to compensate for it, maybe for like I said, from really long range, someone's that's stationary can then move away
Mhm.
after they hit. But in general, it feels okay. So, and sometimes I was actually
Yeah.
hitting things more because I I tend to move my mouse a little bit quicker than like I tend like when they move, I like trying to compensate. And I think because I move it quicker, sometimes it would go exactly where I want it to go,
It actually
and
goes in your
I would
favor.
actually. Yeah, it actually goes to my favor because it's a little bit slower, and I'm just randomly moving my mouse, hoping that it'll hit him, and then actually, it
Yeah,
does actually
that makes sense.
favorable.
Yeah.
It's a different rhythm, so maybe it matches you a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention that too, because like the distance thing I think is the big one, right? Because you're basically giving the enemy team a little bit longer to kind of react to getting
Mhm.
hit. Whether or not they still like take all of the shots is kind of still up to the Zenyatta, in the
Mm-hmm.
predictions and the tracking and the leading. But it feels more fair from the receiving end, I think. And then on top of that, like when I was firing it, I think the only reason that you don't really feel it from the Zenyatta point of view as much is that you're still doing what you normally do. It's just that like it's almost as if the volley lasts 15% longer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're leading and you're releasing your shot, and that in and of itself is letting itself do that. And you have to wait for the whole duration. And then there's that short little time between the volley release and then being able to start going into your primary fire of destruction without volleying again. And so that little delay in damage is actually a really large number for people, like Andres was saying, min-maxing. And that's kind of like the more detailed example that I was thinking through this week. Again, I haven't been able to play it outside of Retribution for a couple rounds of, fun. But that's what I was noticing in that mode. I was like, I can kind of see this because it feels the same, but it's still different. Like my overall DPS does feel a little bit less as fast, but it still feels like it's there.
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah.
still have the same damage potential to two-shot traces if I need to.
Oh,
Or,
he's still
whatever.
very very deadly. Like he's
Yeah.
still gonna be killing a ton of people. He'll still orb you
Yeah.
and kick you to death, and then walk away like nothing had ever happened.
Mm.
Yeah, just
Well,
against widows, it's a little bit harder because now that
Mm.
you mentioned you stay a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
longer. So then they
Right.
even if you might I know sometimes I kill them, but then they kill me. So like you just stay a
Yeah.
little bit longer there, then they can pick you off while that
It's
flies.
more
oh
fair.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
In that battle, which is milliseconds, it can make a huge difference. Yeah, I could see that.
All right. So, we talked a little bit in the pre-show with Roshan about the Archives event, which did in his defense, he hasn't played it yet, but it had to hit like what, less than 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's
So
very
in your
recent.
defense, it's really, really recent. But Andres and I were able to play it, so we're gonna kind of give you a quick rundown of what we thought it what it's about. It's not strategy, but it is PvE, and we do some dips into it here and there. But there's a more story. They renamed the Uprising event to Archives, and now Uprising and Retribution are two tags under the umbrella tag of Archives. So we're basically going to go back through Overwatch history once every year, and this will be the event around April, May region, or sorry, late March, early April region. In this event, this is a Blackwatch focus, centering around the Venice incident, I guess is what they're calling it, I think, in the lore. And it centers around Reaper and his strike team, McCree, Moira, and Genji. And all
Blackwatch.
of these characters are using a Blackwatch styled skin. So this is the one from the Origins for Reaper. This is McCree and Genji's Blackwatch skins from Uprising of last year, and Moira's brand new, very cool cadet styled skin for this event as well. And then they have a Soldier 24, which is, I guess, the code name that Reaper took underneath Soldier 76. So you can see where they get these numbers, and that there are a lot of soldiers, not just 76 of them, but one of them you actually know between 1 and 77. So, yeah, you can check this event out. It's really, really fun. It's got some unique characters and some cool story. There's some skins to go along with it. The ones that you're going to want to be of note is Sombra, Winston, Reaper, Doomfist, Hanzo, Moira, and May Lucio are all getting new skins this time, and all of the previous ones from the Uprising event last year are now available for purchase for regular cost in your currency kit, which means 1,000, not 3,000 of your currency points for available stuff. There's also some really cool new emotes, sprays, victory poses, voice lines. Of note, there's a new puppy thing for Orisa, but this time it's a victory pose instead of an emote that I did note.
I like the puppy. I got it actually. I already equipped it.
Nice.
I'm personally a really big fan of the event. I like the way that they're delivering story through events like this one. It kind of like guides you to a different part of Overwatch. I personally enjoyed it quite a bit this side of the story. It was a little more gritty. It was a little darker. It wasn't your usual we're gonna save the world kind of Overwatch. This was kind of like the bad side of Overwatch, I guess. And we finally got a glimpse on how everything started coming down. Reaper is also a badass. He doesn't give a beep. I'm just saying. I was surprised a little bit there that they were like, okay, we're definitely gonna make this the bad guy over here. And we kind of knew that he was the antagonist character, but we definitely know for sure that he definitely is that antagonist. And it's cool seeing the reaction between him and Soldier 76, kind of like how like they start their struggles, kind of like how they're good friends. They're both fighting for the same cause. And it's almost like Soldier 76 doesn't want anything to do with it, but he also doesn't stop Reyes. And after the incident happens, they're kind of like both in it together still, even though that's kind of what starts the divide. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. In general, pretty cool story stuff. Tons of new little things or little details or clues of what might come. We might have a couple speculations for new heroes. For example, Maximilian. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's this kind of like mafia-looking Omnic. Very dark. We've seen it before slightly on the Doomfist comics. He's part of Talon. There was a small little cinematic, or not cinematic, but picture of just like the Talon members sitting together. It was Doomfist, Moira, and then you had this weird mafia-looking Omnic who's called Maximilian. And even though he's not necessarily part of the story, we've had mentions of him. You hear some voice line interactions that bring him up, and there's also a new player portrait that you can equip of him. So
that
I don't know.
sucker got equipped so fast.
Oh yeah. That was as soon as I got it, I was like, oh, I'm putting this on. He looks very cool, and I think that could be a very, very strong clue of a potential new hero. I like the bad guy too, the Italian bad guy. What's his name? I forget.
I don't know,
Antonio.
Dead.
Yeah.
Who cares? He got shot. No, I'm just kidding. The event is really cool, Roshan. I definitely highly recommend it. Even for seeing some top players just playing an expert and doing some memes like 4 supports is really, really amusing to watch. And there's some really cool nuances of like how to deal with these assassins, or how you want to deal with the sniper, or how you want to kite with the tanks. And learning these type of skills is really something that you can work on communicating with these teams in order to translate it to your rank games. Maybe not 1-to-1, but as far as like strategic planning and like understanding mechanics is really, really cool and valuable for you.
Yeah, you do get to practice a lot of the mechanics. If you're not familiar with Genji, for example, it's a good place to go do a bunch of dash resets.
Practice your dash resets.
Yeah. You can get all of everything.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
The other thing that I was going to mention that is not strategic at all, but the fact that they're relabeling this event as Archives makes me really, really hyped, less so for this event and the previous one, but for the next one, because I feel like it's like, okay, so we have Overwatch, we have Blackwatch, so what is the natural progression that's next? We're going to play the bad boys Talon next round.
Ooh, that would be
so
cool.
Maybe we can
play
do
some
like
Talon.
Some nasty business where we have like Talon version of Moira with Sombra and Doomfist and Widowmaker. That would be like the most dope like strike team. Ugh.
I do like the implications moving forward, because I was worried that we are just gonna get like a rehashed Uprising like last year. Yeah. That'll be okay, I guess. But I really love that now it really makes you look forward to next year, right? Like, ooh, what's gonna be the next lore piece that we're gonna get, what's gonna be the new mission. And Overwatch is all PvP, but honestly, once a year, it's kind of nice playing some PvE with the Overwatch characters.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything you want to say over here,
Well-
Russian? I know you haven't had a chance to try the event,
Yeah.
but hopefully we have convinced
Not
you
to
to
leave
go
you
try
out.
it.
Well, no, I'm gonna have to check it out. It seems like they're actually doing a pretty cool twist and all this stuff like that. Because I haven't been like following the stories of all this stuff as much. I've seen some of I think most of all the shorts. I don't know if there's any
Sure.
more that I've missed, but I like the shorts and I thought they did a pretty cool job with them.
Mhm.
So if seeing story develop through the gameplay as well would be interesting for me. The one thing I would like to see the most, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but when you use your comp points to get those golden skins, there should be an alternative weapon, especially for Zen. Where instead of balls, you get to throw tomatoes or oranges, tennis balls.
As long as it's fruit, I don't care.
Something, yeah. And then the other characters maybe have something else. Maybe there could be like an event where everyone just has goofy weapons and they just like run around like with Genji runs around with like a balloon sword or something. I don't know. Something silly.
That would be
a wet
awesome.
noodle or a pool noodle. That would be
Yeah,
pretty
you know,
good.
something cool like that. I think like there's like so much space for those points to be used, and they're only like gold weapon. That's it, you know.
Yeah, and it almost seems
Upper
like they
tier
gave
level
up on
player
the
problems.
they gave
I
up
have
on the
to
gold
say.
weapons as well too. Because I don't know, for a while they've said that they kind of wish that they hadn't put the golden weapons in the game, kind of so people wouldn't like fight for those. But I think that some cool other stuff. I've said it before, like it would be cool to be able to purchase other cosmetic stuff with your competitive points. That's just not
Sure.
golden weapons. Maybe golden armor or something. Go get fully blinged.
Right.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, guys. Let's tell people where you can find us. If you guys want to support the show, please head over to patreon.com/OmnicLab or twitch.tv/OmnicLab to catch the live show and be a sub. Those things all help us drastically. Get to BlizzCon especially. I was doing some number crunching and it was not very fun this week. Let me tell you, these plane tickets are outrageous. I was helping. Andres was trying to help me out a little bit with the housing this week too, and we were locking it in, and it's crazy. But thankfully, we've been able to save some money here and there. But the convenience is worth the price. Let me tell you. After we did it last year, Andres and I are definitely willing to pay a little bit more to be close instead of having to drive in. It's quite a chore, I think. And we're really looking forward to getting some more interviews and looking for new updates there. If you guys want to find anything else about the show, head over to omniclab.com. You can find anything you want to know there. And you can join our community at discord.me/omniclab in your browser. You can find the link there. You can click the link in any other location on the website or Twitch, whatever. You can find all the links pretty much anywhere. Just use Google and search OmnicLab. You'll find us, I promise. Andres, where can people find you?
If you want to personally find me, you can look me up on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that APLAI Games. And you can also find me talking over at Owl Recap Podcast, all about the Overwatch League with Mel and Bob. Last week, we had SciShow as our guest, the Overwatch League analyst. He was an incredible guest. He was super lovely talking to him. He's a very insightful dude. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check out that episode, I definitely recommend it. We had a blast with him.
Roshan, pimp out your stream, my dude.
Oh, yeah. So you guys can find me on obviously Twitch is my main one, Twitter and YouTube. Although YouTube is a little bit slow, but it's all under RossianSpy, so it's pretty easy. Just type it in, and I promise you will find me on Google because I think I'm the only person that has RossianSpy.
So how do you spell that for those on audio only?
ROSSIN spy all together. So instead of Russian, you just put an O instead of a U.
That's good. That's good. I was gonna say it's a pretty risky name to have in the current political climate.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's Russian. It's a code name.
Yeah,
It's a
you're
code name.
hit it.
It's a
You're hitting
sleeper
away.
agent. Confirmed. You heard it here first.
Exactly. Well,
Sleeper tennis coaches, I tell you.
you have no idea how many times people tell me like, "You spelled Russian wrong," and I'm just like, "Oh, really?" I didn't know."
I'm
I had
foreign,
never
so I don't
noticed
that.
Yeah, it works.
Oh, jeez. Well, if you guys want to find me, you can find me on the tag @NotRob, pretty much anywhere. I will be streaming tomorrow a pack opening stream for Velen's Chosen, my podcast on Hearthstone. We have a brand new Witchwood expansion that's going to be launching. I'll be opening a crap ton of packs and playing only meme decks for the first day because why not? No one else has anything else figured out, and I want to play a lot of fun cards. And you can also catch the stream again the following day where we wrap up our opinions on some cards and the new meta jumping out of the gates on Saturday morning. So, or I'm sorry, Friday night. You can cook up both of those things there on Velen's Chosen podcast on Twitch and velenschosen.com if you want to check out more details on that podcast and you like Hearthstone. Thank you guys so much for joining us on episode 99. Andres, do you have any teasers we can give for episode 100 before we get out of here?
So for episode 100, we're trying to plan something a little special. We want to do more of a community event. We're trying to do a little game day, kind of like how we've done before with trivia and stuff. We're planning on doing that. Also, if you guys would like to submit any audio clips to the show, just anything that you've been wanting to say or put out there, we will likely be playing them at the end of the show as well. Please, if you do want to do that, keep it a little bit short, around 1 minute. 2 minutes would be pushing it a little bit, but if you can keep it around that length, it would be great. And yeah, submit them in. We'll play them on the show, and we'll hope to see you next week on our anniversary.
And try to get them in by Friday morning. Friday morning around 9 Eastern would be ideal. So
Friday night works. Friday night works.
We're going to try to get in Friday night. Okay.
Yeah.
So live stream Friday night next week, folks. Be there. And yeah, we're going to try to get a couple guests on there with us, I believe, as well. So if you have something, send it in. Audio is fine. OBS video is fine. We'll convert it. And text is also fine. Use the podcast questions area of the Discord and just use the tag like what do you just do, pod 100 or OL 100, whatever you'd like. I'll put it in the announcements. We'll see you guys next week. Remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. Roshan, thanks again for joining us. And we're going to sign off on the airlines. So you can say goodbye in your only style that you know how.
I don't wait, I got it. Thank you guys for experiencing tranquility with Zenyatta Airlines, and hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Later. There's no music on the stream, Andres. I'm checking it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like
partying
over here on my own.
Andres has got a party for one in the corner.
Oh, you know why? It's because I freaking updated OBS. I freaking hate updating OBS. Every time I do it, all my audio paths get messed up.
Thanks, Bio.
Just imagining some cool drums, some very chill music, and Zenyatta telling you that we have nothing more to teach you and walking harmony.
Roshan. He's got it covered. He's got it covered. We don't need no music.
All right, guys. Thank you all for coming. You have a good one.
Bye.
See ya.